Hey guys, welcome back to the Homestead Adventure. In today's episode, I will be teaching you how to make bone broth. This same recipe can be used for rabbit or chicken bone broth, and today I will be using rabbit. So let's get started. So let's go over our recipe ingredients. We are going to need 5 pounds of rabbit or chicken bones, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 onions, 4 celery stalks, 4 carrots, 4 garlic cloves, 2 bay leaves, and 32 cups of filtered water. Now you can cut this recipe in half if you don't want to do a huge stock pot full of broth. But keep in mind that this recipe does take about 15 hours of simmering time. So that's why I like to use a big pot and make a large recipe, because I don't want to waste all that time just for a little bit of broth. And I also like to can it. So I don't want to go through all of this work and all of this time just for like 2 cans of broth. So that is why I do it on a larger scale. But like I said, you can easily cut this recipe in half if you don't want to make that much. So let's get started with the first thing you're going to do is measure out your bones. And that's going to be, like I said, 5 pounds. So I got 5 pounds off of 4 rabbits. These are New Zealand rabbits. So they're a larger breed. And you can definitely leave some meat on the bone. Like, as you can see, it's not just bones. There's some meat left on here. So we're going to put our 5 pounds of bones on our tray. And we're going to roast it in a 400-degree oven for 20 minutes. So now that we've put our bones in the oven, we're just going to put the timer on for 20 minutes. And while those are roasting, we are going to get our pot ready. So while the bones were roasting, I put the 32 cups of filtered water in the pot. And now the bones are done roasting, and it's time to put those in the pot of water. And we're also going to put the pan drippings in here as well. So now I got all our bones in. And I'm going to take this pan. And as you can see, there's a lot of liquid left on the pan, so I'm just going to pour that right in there. And right now we're also going to put 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in and 2 teaspoons of salt. And that is all the ingredients that we're going to put in right now. And we're going to turn this up to high and let it boil. So now it is starting to boil, and all of these bubbles at the top, that's impurities that we're going to scoop off the top and just throw those out. As much of the bubbles as you can. So we're looking pretty good here. And now that it's boiling, we're going to turn it down to low. So now I've turned the heat down to low, and I'm going to put my cover on. And as you can see, I am using my pressure canner, but I took the rubber ring out, so it's not going to act as a pressure canner. It's not going to pressure cook this. I'm just using it because it's my largest pot that I have. So I'm just going to place the lid on. I'm not sealing it. So whatever pot you're using, just put the lid on after you turn it down to low, and then we're going to let it sit here and simmer on low for 6 hours before we add the rest of our ingredients. Make sure that it's not at a rolling boil, because that's going to make your broth cloudy. So our broth has been simmering for 6 hours, and now it's time to add the rest of our ingredients. So we have celery, carrots, onions, crushed garlic, and some bay leaves. So when I mentioned the ingredients earlier, I told you 4 carrots and 4 celery stalks. I did 5 because mine were just on the smaller side. So I did 5 carrots cut into large pieces, 5 celery stalks, again cut into large pieces. I did 2 onions, 2 medium-sized onions, and I just cut them and peeled them and cut them into quarters. And I did 5 crushed garlic cloves because they were also kind of small, and I did say 4 before, so it really just depends on your preference if you want more or less. And then 2 bay leaves. So let's throw all that into our pot. You're also going to want to keep the leaves on your celery. They have a nice flavor to them. And then dump your garlic cloves in there. So if you're wondering how to crush your garlic, I use just a garlic press like this. You can just buy it at Walmart or wherever kitchen tools are sold. So now we've added all the ingredients to our pot. We're just gonna stir that a little bit. And we are going to put the top right back on. So now that we put the top back on, we are going to just let it simmer for another 9 hours. So what I do is I actually just leave this on the stove overnight, and it's on a very low heat setting, so it's not gonna burn my house down. But if you are worried about that, you can turn off your stove when you go to bed and turn it back on in the morning and just continue cooking it until you've reached that 9 hours. So the total time for this recipe is 15 hours that you will be simmering this for. Again, don't let it get to a rolling boil because then your broth is going to look very cloudy, and we like clear broths. So it doesn't have to be 15 hours exactly. It can go up to 24 hours. So if you do leave it on overnight and you overslept, don't think that your broth is ruined. It is totally fine. So we're just gonna leave this here, and I will show you how to finish this in the morning. So now it is day 2, and I have been simmering the broth for about 16 hours total. This is what it looks like in here. And our next step is to strain this. So I have another stock pot over here with a strainer and a cheesecloth over it. And I'm just going to strain it into this pot. What I like to do is take the big pieces out and just put them on a tray. And I'm just gonna discard all of this. I mean, if you find a way to use these, great, but it's kind of all garbage now. Now I'm going to take it over to the sink and strain it. And I'm just gonna pour the rest of this in here. Now towards the end, I'm gonna start mixing this around and get all of that broth in there. So this is how much broth we got, and the next step is to put it in the fridge. So our next step is to put the broth in the fridge. So what I do is I just ladle it into some clean jars. And I'm not canning them yet, we're just putting them in the fridge. But this way, I know how many jars I do need when I do can them. And it's just an easy way to store it in the fridge for now. What we're gonna do is leave them in the fridge overnight, and then all the fat is gonna come up to the top, and then we're gonna skim that off in the morning. And then it will be ready to go. I know this is a 3-day long process, but it's not a lot of hands-on. A lot of it's just waiting for things to be done. So from the recipe we just did, I got about 7 quart-sized jars, and now I'm just putting lids on them and putting them in the fridge overnight, and tomorrow we will skim the fat off the top, and then they are done. So now it is day 3 and we are almost done. Our last step is to just skim this thin layer of fat off the top. So with most broths, you're going to have a thicker layer than this. But since this is rabbit and rabbit is very low in fat, it's a very thin layer. So we're just going to scoop that off the top. It doesn't matter if you get all of it out. I mean, it's just fat, it's fine. It's not going to hurt it. So after we've skimmed the fat off the top, it is done. So now it's time to either use it or preserve it. So you can use it right away, put it in the fridge for up to 3 or 4 days, or you can can it or freeze it. So my preferred method is to can these. So stay tuned for next week's episode because I'm going to show you how I can these. Otherwise, we are all done. That is how you make rabbit or chicken broth. You could probably use any other type of animal too. With my pork broth, I do a pretty similar process, but I do change a little bit of the roasting times and some of the vegetables and spices. But otherwise, you can use this recipe for any of your bone broths. It should work just fine. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope to see you on the next adventure. Bye guys. So now it is day 2 and I had simmered Billy. So now it is day 3 and Billy. So the first thing we're going to do is roast our bones. Billy, I'm trying to film. Billy, stop it. I'm trying to film. In today's episode, I will be teaching you how to make bone broth. Billy, stop it. So when I said the ingredients before, I said 4 carrots, 4 pieces of celery, or 4 celery stalks. So our broth has been in today's, it's all the same. So let's start that over. This same recipe can use, in today's episode, I will be teaching you, I use this same recipe, gosh, I just get it right once. So, damn it, come on. Why is it so hard? Okay. In this recipe, in today's episode, I will be teaching you how to make, just get it right, oh my gosh, okay. Do it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh. In today's episode, I will be teaching you how to make bone broth. I'm about to go insane. Billy. Okay, let's try again. Take 157.